C.H.U.D, cannibalistic, humanoid, underground dwellers. I recently revisited this childhood favorite with the release of Arrow Video's excellent Blu-ray. So I originally planned on doing this review on camera, but since I have about as much charisma as a wet sponge, I decided against it. Maybe I'll get better with practice, but probably not. C.H.U.D immediately opens with an awesome throbbing 80s beat. Good stuff. We then cut to a woman walking her dog in the dead of night. For some reason, she decides to take the dog down the center of the street as opposed to the sidewalk. In any event, she and her dog are quickly pulled into the sewer and killed by a C.H.U.D. This part always kind of bothered me. Kill a person in a movie and that's fine, but kill a dog or an animal? That's where I draw the line. Damn C.H.U.Ds, just stick to eating people. We are then introduced to one of the main characters. C.H.U.D is interesting because it's actually more of an ensemble piece, with a group of characters eventually thrust together in their battle to uncover the truth about what's really happening in the sewers of downtown Manhattan. There's George, the photographer, doing a piece about homeless people living in the sewers, his model girlfriend Lauren. Then we have Bosch, a police captain searching for his recently missing wife, and AJ, who runs a local soup kitchen. We've also got Murphy, a reporter trying to figure things out. Throw in there the crooked government guy, a lot of homeless people, and you've got a huge cast of characters. Oh, and who can forget the change-eating thug? Anyway, people are disappearing at an alarming rate in Manhattan, and it's up to this group to figure out what's happening. I love the grimy atmosphere in this film. The movie is full of garbage and filth, with characters constantly exploring sewers and walking by garbage heaps and so forth. It's a great snapshot of the way New York City was back in the 1980s before things finally got cleaned up. Now, sadly, it seems to slowly be reverting back to what it once was, but that's a rant for another video, I guess. So, we come to find out that the evil government guy has been dumping toxic and hazardous waste into the sewers.
This shit's contaminated. This shit is toxic waste.
This waste has been turning the homeless people living in the sewers into C.H.U.Ds. It's interesting watching this movie now with the homeless population seemingly exploding in my small town. Apparently, many homeless people are moving out of the bigger cities and have been making their way to my little town. So I see a lot more garbage and encampments and that sort of thing, something I never saw as a kid around here. The whole thing really makes me think of this movie, minus the part with the homeless turning into mutant cannibals, of course. Anyway, there's one point where Captain Bosch sends a few cops into the sewers to accompany some EPA guys with video cameras. He and the evil government guy watch what unfolds on some monitors, and the whole thing reminds me of the scene from Aliens.
I see something. They're in the flames.
Talk to me.
It's gone! Get them out of there!
Aliens was released a few years after this, so did director James Cameron rip off C.H.U.D? Maybe. As the plot unfolds, the evil government guy decides to flood the sewers with poison gas in an attempt to kill the C.H.U.Ds and cover up his illegal dumping. George and AJ are eventually trapped down there, and it's up to Bosch and Lauren to get them out. Speaking of Lauren, she's quite a badass in this movie. She's the only character to face off against a C.H.U.D and actually survive. These days, in our perpetually offended society, I always hear about how 80s horror movies were sexist and offensive to women. People tend to throw around a lot of fancy words like misogynistic and patriarchal, and other words I don't know the definition of. These horror films from the 80s have always had strong female characters that survived and defeated the monsters. When I hear people complain about this kind of stuff, I want to say,
You don't have to listen to the lunatic ravings of this paranoid hippie.
well said, evil government guy. Well said. I love the look of the C.H.U.D monsters with their huge glowing eyes and claws. The director shows the C.H.U.Ds very sparingly throughout. It kind of reminds me of the old horror flicks from the 50s in a way, where you don't see the monster clearly until almost the end. Very effective. And the gore effects are great too. Just look at the detailing on that severed head. Good stuff. C.H.U.D has a bit more going for it than your typical horror flick. There's some social commentary in there about homelessness, pollution, and class division. It's not as over the top as most everything is these days, so it's pretty interesting and effective.
Putting in so much of your time to help me track down a few undergrounders? Come on. All right. There are other people missing as well. Aha. Who? Important people?
The cast does a fine job throughout, and the movie is filled with lots of familiar faces. Pretty impressive for a B-horror movie. And how weird is it that two people from Home Alone appear in this? I thought it was interesting anyway. Oh, and this is me after working a crazy Black Friday shift in retail.
They have the power to shut the sky. They have the power to shut the sky.
Good times. If the movie does have any flaws, it's that the pacing lags a bit. I'm totally fine with it. Like I said, it's reminiscent of those old monster flicks from the 1950s. But I can see those crazy millennials who keep themselves entertained by eating Tide Pods and snorting condoms being bored. Honestly, guys, what's the matter with you? At least do something cool like the quarter challenge. As I mentioned earlier, I got the Blu-ray from Arrow Video, and the movie looks great. The grimy streets and sewers come through with excellent high-definition clarity. It also includes an extended cut of the film, which is the one to watch. The theatrical cut is missing lots of character bits, and even shuffles a few scenes around and adds some unnecessary humor. The Blu-ray also includes some great special features like commentaries and interviews with the cast and crew. In the end, I highly recommend C.H.U.D. It's a fun little 80s horror movie with good performances and cool monsters. So check it out. Well, to the handful of people who actually sat through this, I thank you. Stay tuned for more videos in the future. I figured I should be able to get a few more up before YouTube inevitably shuts my channel down due to a lack of interest. What can you do?